Welcome back, fight fans. We're back again. I think it's episode 76. Who knows at this point? I might have lost track. I don't even know anymore. But we're back and we're talking about UFC 284, I think it was, and which was this Saturday, and of course, UFC Vegas 69. Nice. Which will feature now Jessica Andrade and Aaron Blanchfield, which of course was not the original scheduled one. They revealed that, I should say, last weekend. That was, of course, supposed to be Tyler Santos and Aaron Blanchfield. Now, like I said, that is Jessica Andrade, which I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's a better matchup or not. I would say it's much better for Jessica Andrade now. Um, that is without a doubt. So we will get into, of course, UFC 284 first. We'll go with the prelims. That opened with Elvis Brenner and Zubaira Tukhugov, who was the biggest favorite of the night. Zubaira Tukhugov wasn't even close in the rankings. I mean, in the odds. I think it was something like minus 1,200. Was it? It was like minus 800, or was it over minus 1,000? And what did I say? I specifically said we don't like to put these in to our parlays because they don't add value and there's unnecessary risk. And that is exactly what we saw. That is exactly what we saw with Tukugov. Got completely screwed out of the decision. I don't like to say robbery, but I mean, that was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And there's been quite a few bad ones the past couple of years. This one, that was something else. Like, this is like, it's, I would even actually say it could be worse than the one with Patty and Gordon, because this is, I mean, obviously not as high profile, but the actual decision of it was just, what am I looking at right now? It was absolutely insane. And I'll go through the fight. We'll go through it round by round, of course, to see how they could have even possibly gotten at that. uh, so, first round, both of them throwing pretty wild early, both doing all right. Then Zuba started to land a little bit more, wobbling Brenner a couple of times. Brenner opened a cut on Zuba. Okay. Zuba landed a bit more, but it was close. Okay. Either way, okay, because now that I'm going through it, it's like, okay, maybe I could see how it could have been a split, but it's still. Anyway, we'll just keep going, pretending I didn't just say that. Pretty even round. Tough to say who grabbed it because it's really all up to the cut. But I mean, Zuba did land quite a bit more, but there was the damage with the cut, obviously, which I even said could have swayed the judges. I mean, you don't want to go 10-10 in this round because there was so much damage on, well, not so much, but there was damage on both sides. So, it was definitely close. I was going with Zuba probably on that one, but it was really close. Brenner pushed forward in the second round, reopened that cut. Oh, I lost my spot on the paper there. Then Zuba came back, walked him down, landed some quick shots. Zuba really pushed the pace throughout the entire round, landed a lot more. Pretty clear round for Tukugov. I wrote that down there. Pretty clear round. Brenner couldn't really get a whole lot going. Yes, he reopened the cut. Okay, if it was already a big cut, reopening it, really not that significant. Plus, like I said, I mean, Zuba was just clearly way ahead there. So that's an obvious round for Tukugov. So at worst, it's 1-1. I actually thought it was probably 2-0, but it could have been 1-1. So that's how I saw it at that point. Third round, Zuba's coach told him to look for a finish because, again, first round close. Okay. Um, you don't know what the judges are seeing. Go for a finish. Great advice in any round, to be honest. I mean, I think you should always be looking for a finish. no matter what anyway. And this is the perfect example of why you do always look for a finish. And he was pushing hard early, picked him apart from a distance. Tukugov then went for the clinch for the first time in the fight, pushed him into the fence for a bit. Brenner landed a nice back fist, but that just led to some more grappling from Zuba. Pinned Brenner. Wow, I'm messing up my words here. Pinned Brenner along the fence. Briefly did trip him a couple of times. Definitely not. I even wrote this. Definitely not the dominant display from Zuba I expected, because I definitely expected this to be very one sided. But it was a pretty clear win for him, especially those last 2 rounds. Say what you want to say about the first round. I could have definitely seen that in either direction. But you know what? Because of the cut, I'll just give it to him. I'll give the cut because of the cut. I'll give the first round to Brenner. The second and third rounds though, I don't really see how you could have that the other way. I mean, it was pretty obvious. I even wrote that clear round, pretty clear win. And then, and even the commentators, analysts, everybody I see seeing the same thing, like, oh yeah, okay, not as good as we expected from Tukugov, but Brenner a little bit better than we expected. Obviously, still a win for Zuba though. And then you start hearing the judges' scorecards, and you're like, well, hold on a sec, what happened? What's happening here? The first judge, 29-28 Brenner. And already I was like, what did you just say? Excuse me? Like, what was that? Did you just say Brenner? And then it was 29-28 Zuba. And it was like, okay, well, whatever. One lunatic saw it 29-28 for Brenner. The other two are going to see it for Zuba. We're good. And then you hear 30-27. It's like, okay, well, 30-27 Tukugov. Okay. Fair enough. I saw each of the 3 rounds. Okay. Zuba, yeah, fair. 30-27 Brenner. And that was just like, what? What did I just hear? What? And I've never seen this happen before. Like, John Anik is one of those guys, super professional, super unbiased, straight down the middle. Like, seriously, as clear cut down the middle as you will see from anybody. And that's incredible that he can do that all the time, because that's not who I am. I just say how I see it, and that tends to look, that could definitely look biased. DC does it too. I mean, he might be biased or sometimes. I actually don't think DC is biased, to be honest. A lot of people say he is, but it's just because he sees things as it is, and he definitely does favor the grapplers because they tend to do better. But anyway, John Anik, nobody ever even claims that even there's a shred of bias in him, which there isn't. That's how good he is at this. And even he specifically said, and again, I've never heard John Anik say this, but even he yelled, he was like, whoa, I've never heard John Anik do that about a result like this before, where even he was like, I definitely thought it was going in the other direction. And he didn't want to say the words robbery. He didn't want to say that was an insane decision, but you could tell. And this is how insane of a decision it really was, that it had, even John Anik was like talking about it and questioning it for quite a while. And all of the analysts talked about it for the next fight too. That's how insane it was. And then throughout the entire night, they mentioned, okay, yeah, like, the judges, you never know with these judges, some of these judges tonight, blah, blah, blah. For the rest of the night, after this fight, and this was the first fight of the night, after that, the entire night, they could not stop talking about the judges because of what happened in this fight, because it is that crazy to score the fight this way, especially as a 30-27. Like, even as a 29-28 for Brenner, that's kind of crazy. But even then, it's like, okay, one guy sees it 29-28. You know, like, that's stupid, but okay. But 30-27, what? Like, you clearly could not be watching this fight, the same fight as we are. Like, that's batshit crazy. And they even actually said, like, are these judges going to be in some of these other fights? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, are we seeing these guys again? What's going on? And we don't actually know. And I mean, you know, they could have easily been judging fights that had a lot of finishes after, so who knows? We never saw any other controversial scorecards from there, not that I can think of anyway. Um like I said, I think it might have just been like, okay, we had two judges that had absolutely no idea what they were watching for that fight. Definitely one that had no fucking idea what he was watching, and one that was like, yikes. And then one that was fine. Like I said, 29-28 for Zuba, that's totally fine. 29-28 Brenner, questionable at best. And then yeah, 30-27, clearly somebody was not watching at all. Absolutely fucking batshit crazy. And that was the first fight of the night. So that was the split decision against the biggest favorite of the night, Zubair Tukugov. So with what was his name? Oh yeah, Elvis Brenner taking the win somehow. Shocking, completely ridiculous, absurd result there. Could not believe it. And right away, I was like, oh God, no. Like, this is not what we're having. You don't ruin Australia for us. You know, a couple of other cards were ruined by shit like this, especially that one with Patty. Let's not fuck this entire card up in the first fight with these judges. Let's not do that. Thankfully, that was not the case, and that was the only sour point really of the night. But wow, was that bad. And we did actually see some early stoppages here and there too, but nothing that really would have affected the result. But anyway, absolutely batshit crazy way to start the night there. Insane. Second fight, Blake Builder, Shane Young. This was actually funny because I inputted the wrong person on Tapology. I actually was gonna pick Blake Builder because I didn't really think Shane Young was all that good, and then I clicked the wrong one on Tapology. So I actually got this one wrong on Tapology, even though I actually made the right pick. I just put the wrong person down. It happens sometimes. It happens. But yeah, you know, yeah. Anyway, let's get into the fight. Lots of movement from Builder early. Lots and lots of movement. Like, could not Shane Young could not pin him down at all, and that's really the entire story of the fight. Young was doing okay at first, stumbled Builder a couple times because he was the only one throwing any kind of offense out at all early on. Young, I should say, was doing that. Finally, Builder started to make a move, ran into Young, drove him into the fence. Didn't really get a whole lot of damage going, but he did keep him there for a whole couple of minutes. And honestly, I even said that probably actually stole the round for Blake Builder because yeah, you know, Young did land a couple of ones early, but seriously, the output was so minimal from both sides that like 2-3 minutes of control time for Builder could have definitely swung it in the judges' eyes there. So I had it for Builder, but I mean, again, that's actually to me more like a 10-10. That's more like a 10-10, and I really should have actually written that down because there really wasn't anything going on at all. And it was that close. 10-10 seems fair. Second round, heavy kicks from Builder. Young having a really hard time landing anything, like I said. I mean, now with Blake throwing in those kicks, now he really can't get in because he's moving too much for Young to pin him down. And he's got the kicks going, making it way harder to hit him from a distance, too. So now Young really can't get anything going at all. But then Builder started to slow down. Then yet let Young land a little bit more briefly. Did get a takedown. Still not a crazy amount of action. I actually gave the round to Young here. So it was either tied 1-1, or honestly, it could have even been 20-20 at this point, dead even, because it was really that close again. Um, but let's just even say I gave the round to Young. Uh, so yeah, we'll call it 1-1 or 2019. Third round, Young came in a lot harder this round, but Builder getting him pretty good this time. As the round went on, both men letting it all go. Definitely the best round of the fight. Builder was landing a lot better, almost got a takedown, but was shut down. Young's face pretty bashed up by the end of it, probably giving Builder the win, but dead even the entire fight. I did write that. So I mean, really, if you're going by the rounds, I would have said, if you're truly going towards what it should be scored, I would have probably said 10-10, 10-9 for Young, 10-9 for Builder. Probably would have been a tie. Probably would have been a draw. That's how I see it. Or you could even really see it as 30-30. I mean, seriously, like this really was just dead even the entire time. And I mean, if there were a bunch of people watching this, they'd be like 30-30. Seriously, that's what we're doing now. A tie? Yes. Yeah. That's what the score that is what the rules would actually say, because it's that close. That's what the rules would say. It's 30-30. Like, I don't feel bad about it because that's just how it should be. It's a 30-30 fight. It was dead even the entire time. Nobody really took control of the situation. Maybe like I said, maybe even the last round you could give to Builder. So it could have even been 30-29. Two 10-10 rounds, and then the last round goes to Builder. I don't know. But I mean, like that's how it should be being scored, because they're that close. If you don't know who won, that's a 10-10. It's just as simple as that. That is how the rules are laid out. That's how it should be being scored, but it's not. Crazy. Anyway, and I will keep saying that pretty probably every week, honestly. Well, not every week, but probably most weeks there will be one fight where I say that 10-10 is what the score should be. Until somebody starts listening. Fight number 3, Loma Lookboonmee, Elise Reed. Didn't really think this was going to be all that close. I even had that. I think I had her in the parlay, Loma Lookboonmee. Just way more experienced, way better all around. As expected, Loma was slicker, more powerful on the feet early. Huge damage to the legs of Reed, lots of kicks. Then Reed started to go with the grappling, but Loma was the one who got the takedown. Reed managed to reverse her, was bleeding a lot though from her nose. Couldn't really get anything going. Loma kind of just holding on at that point. Loma did give up her back, got hit by some ground and pound. Really, really close in the first round. Reed may have gotten it in the first round just because of the late work, her turning it around like that. Because you should tend to favor the end of the round a little bit higher, because it is the end of the round. In a real fight, that is the person who wins last wins. So again, makes sense. I'll have to go, I kind of went with 10-9 Reed on that, but yeah, it was really close. Second round, huge takedown from Loma right away. And that, by the way, that was again really mostly just kind of a mistake from Lookboonmee. I mean, I wouldn't really say Elise was necessarily looking that insanely good. But yeah, second round took Reed's back. Unbelievably, did lock in the rear naked choke immediately. Immediately. Like, it was super quick. Reed could not get out of it and was forced to tap. Very impressive win for Loma Lookboonmee. She's kind of hit and miss. She'll have these fights where she looks like this, really, really good. And then she'll have fights like with Loopy where it's like, what's going on? Like, you're getting absolutely trashed by somebody here. Yeah, but maybe that's just a couple of bad moments here and there. I don't know, because she really does have the talent. I mean, her stand up is incredible. Her grappling is actually way better than people give her credit for. So I think she's actually a lot better than people realize, and she probably will be getting somebody that's ranked like 10 to 15 next, because she is, or she should at least, because she is that good. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one. Then we started getting all of the Australians coming in, and that, of course, is when the crowd really finally came alive like we knew it would. Unlike Brazil, and yes, I'm still mad about that. Unlike Brazil, yes, now Australia, okay, they're coming alive. I knew they would because that's who they are. This is where it finally started to happen and where we knew it was like, okay, this is going to be one crazy night. Jack Jenkins, Don Shanus, obviously had Jack Jenkins going into this. Both men getting pretty wild early. Jenkins landing some heavy knees in the clinch. Crazy to watch. Amazing guy. He's super entertaining and hilarious, by the way, if you didn't get that from some of the interviews. Finally, crowd alive and well, like I said, exploding for Jack Jenkins. Love Jack Jenkins over there and here, of course. Actually, apparently he was, I think it was rugby or something. He was doing something in Canada too. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Anyway, that aside, Sheamus tried to get the grappling going, but Jenkins letting loose his classic heavy leg kicks. My God, these leg kicks. Apparently, he has now broken the legs of 5 different opponents. That includes Don Sheamus, by the way, who didn't, wasn't a leg kick TKO by any means or anything like that, but he did actually have a broken leg by the end of the fight because of those kicks. Fifth time. That's crazy. And you can tell because these kicks are just unreal. You would not want to be anywhere close to those leg kicks. Good round for Jenkins. So pretty obvious round, early round for Jenkins. Second round, heavy counters from Jenkins. Beautiful trip from Jenkins, throwing him to the canvas. And this is what he did on the Contender Series. Started to go towards the grappling on the ground as a one-trick pony. I still can't believe they actually said that, because even watching it back, I was like, what are you talking about? He's not what? Like, he's actually really good. I thought he was really good right away. I couldn't believe they thought, oh, one trick guy, like he's not really that good. What are you talking about? This guy's fantastic. And we saw that here too, but I mean, I just couldn't believe they said that after the Contender Series. Anyway, um second round there. Dominant from there, really, after throwing Sheamus to the ground there. Lots of grappling. Did get back up, but lots of just huge shots to the body. Lots of kicks. Sheamus did make it interesting for a bit there. Got a takedown. Heavy ground and pound, but Jenkins then got back up and did the exact same thing to him. Took him down and got some ground and pound there. And pretty obvious round again, I would say, for Jenkins. So 2 rounds up. Crowd absolutely losing it, rightfully so. I would have too. I mean, one of the best crowds, if not the best crowd I have ever seen. Coming close to that London crowd last year. Actually, about this time last year. It wasn't, I think it was January or February last year in London. 2 best crowds for sure, not even close. I mean, those are clearly the 2 best crowds that I've ever seen. This one might be the best now. um, Third round, Jenkins took him down quick, took his back. Sheamus did lock in a nasty Kimura attempt, but couldn't really get it going. Still stuck on the bottom. And Jenkins really just used that to just smother him on the ground the entire fight. I mean, 20 seconds left. Sheamus was in a bad spot. Got hit by ground and pound. Rocked by a couple of last minute shots. Almost got the finish, but did not get it. Clear win for Jenkins all around. Super, super impressive guy. I mean, yeah, okay. Sheamus, obviously not the greatest prospect. And I mean, that's why it was pretty obvious that Jack Jenkins was going to win this. But, still, even that aside, you got to admit Jenkins is definitely a very impressive prospect, even just based on the leg kicks alone. I mean, featherweight, I think it's featherweight. What a guy. Super, super impressive. Super, super impressive. And also, again, hilarious. Very entertaining guy. Fight number 5, Jamie Malarkey, Francisco Prado. Going into this, even though I did pick Malarkey, I really did think this was going to be kind of close, only because Prado was undefeated. So I wasn't really sure just based on that. I was like, you know, that could get rough. Fast start from both guys. Malarkey definitely looking quicker and crisper. Prado landed hard, but Jamie followed him up with a huge takedown. Prado did get back up. Malarkey controlled him perfectly to once again get him back down. Lots of ground and pound that sliced open Prado. And with that, pretty obvious round for Malarkey there. Second round, both guys letting loose early. Jamie still landing the cleaner shots. Prado's output then really started to decline quite a bit. Malarkey still looking fresh, which, I mean, it wasn't too surprising because that was the other part that made me really go towards Malarkey. Prado never really fought outside the opening round. He just always wins in the first round. So how are they going to react in the second and third when they've blown their tank in the first round? That is one of the reasons why I ended up taking Malarkey. And we saw that happen. Again, like I said, Prado starting to slow down there. Neither guy really landing a whole lot by the middle of that second round, but Malarkey still seemed to be ahead. Jamie landed a huge one that landed that wobbled Prado there. Another clear round for Jamie, especially because of that late wobble there. So 2-0 for Malarkey at that point, pretty clear. Third round, kept that output going throughout the third. Prado threw out a takedown, shut down. Prado landed a good one, but was then taken down like in the first round. And then Malarkey just ran away with it from there. Will say, though, scary moment with a couple seconds there with Malarkey. He did get stuck in a Kimura, but he did slip out of it. And I would say probably grabbed the third round as well. And then all the judges had it 30-27, agreeing with me there. But the third round a little bit closer. But the first 2 rounds, yeah, no doubt, Jamie Malarkey, and still pretty impressive. I mean, the UFC record doesn't sound all that impressive because I think now it's 3-2 in the UFC. I could be wrong about that. But when you consider who the fights have been against, it's pretty impressive. Especially, I mean, this guy was undefeated too. Remember that, Prado. So, and he dominated him the entire fight. So pretty impressive here. Then we had Clayson Rodriguez and Shannon Ross. I do think Shannon Ross is exciting and he can be good, but I mean, I knew how good Clayson was going into this. So yeah, I mean, I even said I don't remember if I said there was going to be a finish or not, but I knew Clayson was going to win this for sure. And that's exactly why I put him in, I think, both of the parlays that I put in the article, because pretty clear, obvious choice there. First 30 seconds, a little slow, but as soon as the action started, it was just all over. Clayson wobbled Ross with a big one, just let it all go after that. Combo after combo, huge shots, and the ref called it to a stop right away. To be honest, I mean, it was a pretty early stoppage, like way, way too early of a stoppage. But I mean, when you consider what was going to be happening anyway, Clayton was either going to keep, get a finish anyway within the next minute, or he was just going to dominate him for the rest of the round, get a finish the second round or something like that. So I mean, I don't think it was really going to get a whole lot better for Shannon Ross, but you just don't like to see like ridiculously early stoppages like that, and that's what that was. But again, TKO finish, Clayton Rodriguez, easy win, easy cash in there. This one was definitely a lot more surprising. Melsik Bagdasaryan, Joshua Kulabau. I picked Melsik by decision here because he's clearly a better striker. And I didn't really think that the grappling would really come into play all that much here. And I was actually kind of right. And then until I wasn't. First round, Melsick walked forward right away. Kulabau definitely more active. But to me, that actually really looked like Melsick was just kind of feeling him out. Like he wasn't really getting hit all that much. He just wasn't really throwing out a whole lot because I think he kind of wanted to see like, okay, how fast is Kulabau? How good is he at judging distance? How good is Kulabau here? I think that's really more so what Melsick was doing because then he started to land kicks and combos and counters. And this led to Kulabau's nose getting busted open. Then a very hard, very, very hard, unfortunate low blow that definitely looked like it was going to cause a problem and take a while. And of course, I didn't write who that was. I can't remember who did it, who got hit. Oh man, I didn't write it down. The round ended from there pretty much. Really close, could have gone either way. I actually thought a point was going to be taken away. I really did because it was pretty bad. Like it was definitely one of the worst low blows I've ever seen. So I 100% thought a point was going to be taken away, and they did say that on the broadcast too. Kind of thought there was going to be one taken away. There wasn't. Which then, it was kind of like it was pretty close for me. You could either go with Melsick from the damage because, like I said, nose busted open, or Kulabau for activity. I kind of went with Melsick on that one because again, damage. You got to go with the damage. He busted his nose open, and he was hitting him with the heavier shots. So to me, I would have gone with Melsick, but it was pretty close either way. And that's really what I was getting at before. Like I said, I knew I was pretty sure anyway, the better striker was going to win. And that is, without a doubt, that is actually still Melsick for sure. He is definitely the better striker. Um, so then I figured, okay, second round, third round, Melsick is going to start walking away with it pretty easily here. Melsick did not give him any room to breathe at the start of the second, started walking him down immediately. Pace did slow down a little bit from there until Kulabau pushed him on his back. Wasn't even really a knockdown. It was just a weird sequence of events here. More, he kind of like pushed him and tripped him. It actually didn't even really seem like he was going for a takedown. He kind of just, I don't know, he was kind of going for a punch, ended up tripping him. Melsick fell backwards, and I mean, Kulabau just thought, "Holy shit, I'm gonna jump on this guy now and take his back," and that's exactly what happened. Melsick literally just did not see it coming at all and got tapped. That was it. And that was it. Just a shocking submission win. First time Melsick, I think it was the first time Melsick had been submitted, and also the first submission win for Kulabau, I think. I think that's how it worked out in terms of those stats, I guess you could call them. I think that's how it worked out. I can't specifically remember, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked out. Either way, obviously, nobody saw a submission by Kulabau coming. That would be insane to predict that. You wouldn't, realistically, that's not happening. And like I said, completely out of nowhere after Melsick was winning. So I stand by the pick. I think, out of 10, how many times is this going to happen? Normally 0, because it was just a bizarre sequence of events. So I don't regret the pick at all for that one, Bagdasarian. I still think I made the right pick. Just a really weird sequence of events there. Like not even a takedown, just a trip that didn't even really seem to be on purpose. And then he just jumped on it where Melsick literally didn't even see it coming. And then he was already in deep on the submission, and just from there, obviously couldn't get out of it. He didn't know what was happening. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that one. Really, really weird one. But yeah, I mean, obviously, kudos to Kulabau for sinking that in, seeing that opportunity, and getting it. Obviously, but yeah, crazy, crazy sequence of events there. Then we had the next prelim that I had talked about last week. That was Tyson Pedro and Modestas Bukauskas. I got to admit, I was definitely way more, well, maybe not way more surprised. Oh, actually, yeah, no. I was way more surprised by this one, I got to say. Both men feeling each other out for the first minute. Bukauskas. Oh, by the way, of course, I did have Pedro by finish because Modestas, as we mentioned a lot last week, he was cut from the UFC for losing 3 straight, was finishing a couple of those. Tyson Pedro, 2 first round finishes in a row. Very, very talented guy. Also, of course, we are in Australia. Not that that makes a huge difference. But, I thought it was a pretty clear pick. And then, yeah, it was bizarre to watch, to be honest. Bukauskas landed first, but nothing really significant coming from either side. Pedro then got a bit of an interesting takedown, finding himself on top. I remember it being weird because I wrote interesting takedown, and I don't usually write, when I write that, that always means that was weird. Um, and then it was really all Pedro from there, working him on the ground, always looking for a sub. Bukauskas landed a couple of late shots to end the round. Maybe won the round like that. It could have been one of those 10-10 rounds again. Tough to say really about that one. Yeah, I don't know. So that one was meh, like that really could have gone either way. Second round, but really the surprising part though was that Pedro started off so slow. I mean, he absolutely annihilated his last 2 opponents, looked unstoppable, and then came into this fight and it's like this doesn't even, it really did not even look like the same person. So yeah, little weird on this one. Um yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that other than I was just surprised that Pedro came out so slow. Second and third round, kind of the same. Didn't really get a whole lot going. Second round, landed a nice, Bukauskas landed a nice combo to open the round. Still pretty slow from both sides. Again, surprising. I thought Pedro was going to be doing much, much better. Pedro clearly better with his kicks, though. And I even wrote here, I don't really know why he wasn't throwing out a whole lot more because that's what I'm used to watching with him is he's a super aggressive, dangerous guy. That's what I saw in the last 2 fights. And we just didn't see that at all this time. Wasn't really throwing out anything at all. Pedro then pushed him into the fence. Really not a whole lot this round. I mean, this was definitely a 10-10 for me. I mean, there was literally nothing on either side that was going on. Third round, Pedro pushed him into the fence again, still dead even. No guy really getting anything. Excuse me. No guy really getting anything going. Bukowska seemed to be landing a bit more on the feet, and Pedro was getting some good control time. With a late flurry from Bukauskas, he probably did steal the round on the cards there. And I even wrote down absolutely no clue which way this went. I mean, this was clearly the least interesting fight on this entire card. I don't think there's any question about that. But yeah, just bizarre. Just an extremely bizarre, uncharacteristic performance from Tyson Pedro. That was just weird. Weird to watch. Did not see that one coming. And they ended up scoring at 30-27, 29-28, 29-28 for Bukauskas, which again, like I can't even really argue with that because I even actually said, third round, probably Bukauskas. First round could have easily been Bukauskas. Second round, 10-10 could have gone either way. So, I mean, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. I have no arguments there. I really don't. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the results. I don't even really know if I have a problem with picking Pedro or picking Bukauskas after this. It was just not the fight that I expected at all, and just really strange as to how that worked out. I don't really know what happened in that one. That was a weird one. Then we had the main card, and I will go to my phone for this one because that is where I have my notes. As always, still haven't figured out how to do that yet, how to fix that, to send my notes over to the laptop. I don't know why it doesn't work, but it doesn't. Okay. And this, of course, was and oh my god, don't even get me started on what the fuck I had to go through to even watch this fight, which, by the way, I missed a couple minutes of this fight. A couple of occasions, actually, I missed the start of the first round, and I missed a couple seconds in the second round as well because these fucking morons at Shaw Cable. Fucking, I hate cable companies. I really do vow to burn all of them to the ground. I will destroy them in the future somehow. I don't know how, but I will destroy them. Could not believe it. Could not access my pay-per-view. As always, by the way, it always takes me, I'm not even joking, 5 to 10 minutes to get into the fucking pay-per-view to watch it because of these absolute criminals. And this time, I couldn't access it at all, and we even had to go on the phone for it, and it took, I'm not even joking, I believe it was about 45 minutes to an hour to actually get access to the pay-per-view to watch it. So I had to illegally stream the first 2 fights of the card, of the pay-per-view card. Sorry, not sorry, I had to do it. I paid for it and everything, and these fucking idiots were locking me out of it. So anyway, end of rant. I will rant about them in the future. Again, I vow to burn them to the ground. Main card, though. Anyway, that aside, it was Jimmy Crute, Alonzo Menafield. I did have Menafield by finish going into this, but this was one of those ones where I really could have seen it going either way, and I did mention that last time. They have both had a solid potential there. I did see a finish coming, and really could have had a finish on either side for this one. Insane fight. Wish I could have watched it the way it was meant to be watched instead of streaming it on my laptop illegally. But, this is what the world is coming to. Crute started imposing his will. This is where I jumped into the fight. This is what was happening. Crute started to impose his will with the grappling, pushed him into the fence, dragged him down. That's where I came in. I think it was like 2 minutes into the fight or something. Got in deep on a sub, but Menafield did get out of it. Wild strikes from there from both men. Then it was Menafield who was in the dominant spot on the ground. Heavy shots from Menafield there. I think pretty clearly stealing the round because it doesn't really matter what happened in the first 2 minutes unless there was a knockdown that I missed. With Alonzo then pretty clearly winning the round because, like I said, heavy shots from Menafield, stole the round, almost finished him at the end of the first round there. So first round, Menafield, pretty clear for me. Second round, I guess the stream I was watching was from BT Sport, so it came in again, and it was already like 30 seconds or a minute into the fight. It was the fight had already started again. The second round had already started. I don't know what they're doing on BT Sport. What the fuck? Show the whole fight. Like, what if Crute or Menafield had been knocked out in the first 30 seconds of the fight? We would have missed it. Like, what are you doing? This is a pay-per-view too. What are you doing? Anyway, Crute was on the ground getting ground and pounded hard early. That's exactly where it jumped in. He was already getting ground and pounded. That is where they joined the stream. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, BT Sport? Or maybe it was just a stream I was watching. I have no idea, but I think it was because of BT Sport because it said them. Anyway, bizarre way to conduct business there on all fronts. Fuck all of these companies. Crute started to get hit back, and my God, was he getting slammed by Menafield. I wrote that. Then, unbelievably, could not believe it. This was an insane fight. This was actually, I briefly considered making this the fight of the night, but then, of course, I mean, the main event, it's just historic, so I had to go with it. But yeah, then it was Crute that grabbed the takedown and almost started to slip in a sub. I couldn't believe what was happening. Like I said, I thought I was going to be cashing in the finish here for Menafield. I mean, holy shit. Almost had it a couple times. Looked deep, but Menafield somehow survived the round. Absolutely insane. Probably tied because of all that damage from Alonzo. I must have mixed names up here. Somewhere. But anyway, thought it was tied 1-1. Then in the final round, Crute still wobbling forward, somehow alive, no clue how. Working for a takedown, in deep on the takedown, grab the fence horribly. Point taken away from Menefield. Which, by the way, ridiculous. Why are we taking points like that? I mean, they kept trying to stand by it, like, oh, it's justified by, like, okay, take the point away. I mean, listen, was it a bad one? Yeah, it was a really, really bad fence grab, but I don't know, take a point away. I don't know about that. I'd say what he really should have gotten a very hard warning, and that would probably be it. And then if you see another fence grab, call it, because from what I remember, that was the first fence grab of the match, and yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was a little bit much. I don't think they should have taken the point away. But, whatever. It happens. It happens. um where was I here? Finally grabbed the takedown after that and was working hard, and the crowd was going absolutely bananas, understandably. I mean, like I said, it was a crazy, crazy fight. Crute was all over him. And of course, Australian guy is the guy that's coming back here. Looking for subs, outmaneuvering him. Menefield just really didn't have anything left at that point, like nothing left in the tank whatsoever. Could not get back up. And to me, I mean, with the point loss for Alonso and the control time for Crute, seemed like a pretty clear win for Crute. Maybe a draw. Because like I said, and I actually, maybe I just, when I was writing that, I was confused as to what I meant by, again, I was frazzled by these absolute fucking morons at Shaw. So, maybe I did mean to have Alonso up the first two rounds. But yeah, again, it was a pretty clear 10-8 in the final round for Crute because of that point loss. So, I mean, that ends up being a tie or a 29-27. And that is exactly what we saw. We saw two 28-28s for the majority draw, because then one of the judges had it 29-27, like I said. So, yeah. And again, that's really all because of the point deduction, which I don't really think was justified at that point. So to me, really, actually, I kind of won by picking Menefield. It's true, actually. If you don't go with point deductions, Menefield actually won. He won. He won 29-28 on two of the cards, and he lost 29-28 on another one. So it was a split decision with Menefield winning. So technically, I was right. Anyway, majority draw, ridiculous. But that being said, it was a crazy fight. And really, by the end of it, it was kind of dead even anyway. So it's not like I had a huge problem with 28-28. I just kind of thought, like, I wouldn't have really taken the point away there. Second fight of the main card, Justin Tafa, Parker Porter. Knew this was going to be completely one-sided, and my God, was I right. Justin Tafa was not even close. I mean, he absolutely destroyed Parker Porter, exactly like I knew he was going to. Both men letting loose early. Both guys landed a couple, and then Tafa just landed, shut the lights out with a single bomb, dropped him to the canvas like a sack of potatoes. That was it. First round win for Justin Tafa. Very impressive knockout, which I believe, yes, that was my knockout, my KO bonus of the night. And I think that was pretty clear. I mean, there were only 2 KOs of the night, and one of them was not a KO. That was with Rodriguez and Shannon Ross, which was absolute garbage. That was not a KO. I mean, it was a TKO and generous at best because it was a super early finish. So obviously had to be Justin Tafa for the bonus here. Then we had the man of the, actually, no, I can't even say that. I can't even say he was the man of the evening for Australia, because then we had, of course, Volkanovski. But the other Australian that everybody was looking forward to, Jack Della Maddalena. And this, we knew that this was going to be what separates him from, being a good prospect to actually being like, oh shit, like this guy's fucking good, depending on what was going to happen here. I thought, okay, Madalena should probably get a finish, maybe second round, maybe third, because I think Randy Brown is going to be able to survive that long. But he did not. Madalena picked up on his strategy really early, that he was cutting off, that he was, backing up into the fence on purpose, then jumping out to avoid the strikes. That's just what Brown does. He's very good at it, and he always does it. And Madalena noticed it and took right advantage of that, threw exactly where he knew he was going to be. Lots of memes being made about it because it looked like Randy Brown had slipped on a banana peel because he had been hit so hard. It was just like, whoa. And then he just fucking like almost a somersault across the octagon, and then gets submitted, or what Laura Sanko likes to call a club and sub, which, by the way, absolutely incredible. I love that, club and sub, incredible. I've never heard that, but man, do I love it. And I hope I get to use that more at some point, because that is exactly what happened. It wasn't like a true submission win. Even Madalena said it himself. It's like, you know, it he just didn't know what was happening at that point. So you just go in for the choke and get the finish. He easily could have gone for a ground and pound finish as well. He just wanted to go for a sub. The neck was right there. Why not? It's a club and sub right there. And yeah, in the first round, absolutely insane, sensational win. Could not have been more impressed. Crowd goes absolutely fucking bonkers. Insane. Loved every second of it. I was already a fan of Jack Della Maddalena. I am a much bigger fan now. Insane win for Jack Della Maddalena. And I really cannot wait to watch him again. Called out Luque. That's actually a perfect call out. Seriously. That is probably one of the best call outs he could have made, because I actually think Luque, I mean, maybe, I'd get crucified for saying this if a lot of people were watching this, but I actually think Luque is one of the easier matchups, especially for Maddalena, because we've kind of seen some holes in Luque's game recently, the last couple fights. And I think Maddalena kind of fits perfectly into that, where he could easily take advantage of that and easily win the fight. I really do. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic call out. That is easily worthy of a co-main event in in a fairly high profile card, or could even be the main event of one of these, one of the fight nights. I could easily see that happening. Very, very entertaining matchup, and just a very entertaining guy, talented guy in general. Yeah, super high on this guy. Love him. Love him. Then we had the co-main, the fake belt. Should not have been a belt, but whatever. Honestly, it didn't even have the feel of a belt. It had nothing, none of that belt, you know, action, the drama of having a belt. It had none of that, to be honest. And it's like, oh, they're getting all emotional for winning the belt. And I totally understand it from his point of view. Of course, Yair is getting emotional for winning the belt. But as a fan, as a fight fan, it was kind of like, I don't really resonate with this at all right now. Like, I'm not getting any of this. There wasn't really that emotion for me as a viewer, because it just didn't feel like a real belt, especially with Volkanovski fighting right after it. And I think that's really what did it. Because if this was done any other night and it was like, okay, interim featherweight title fight, we're doing it. Then it's like, okay. Then I probably would have been like, oh, good for Yair. It's so emotional. It's so good. Great for him. This is rightful, rightfully so that this is happening. Love it. But I think honestly, because it was just before this fight, it was kind of like, why is this happening? Why are we doing this matchup? It's so stupid. Like, or not even the matchup. Actually, I think the matchup was incredible. But why is this a belt? Why is this a title fight? It just doesn't make any sense. And it just didn't feel right. Didn't like it. Yeah, I don't think it should have been for the belt. But anyway, that aside, knew it was going to be a good fight, and it was. Also, knew Rodriguez was going to win pretty easily. He did. I don't. I honestly was shocked when I saw that the odds were that close because I don't really know what Emmett really did to deserve the odds being that close at all. And I even said that last week. I don't really think this is going to be close at all. I did think it was going to be a decision only because I think Emmett's pretty durable. But I think, and actually, to be honest, I actually think it was heading in that direction. Emmett just made a stupid mistake by, yeah, by letting Yair get into that position where he got choked out like that. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not, that's, I don't know. It was just I would say just a tactical mistake from Emmett there to let that happen. That's it. Otherwise, I think, yeah, I really do think this probably would have kept going all 5 rounds, if not at least to the fourth round. Yeah, I don't know. Just, but and that really again just speaks to why I was pretty confident going into this that Rodriguez was going to win, and why I actually think I might have put both Rodriguez's in both parlays. Either that or maybe I put one in one in, in both of the other. I can't really remember what I did. But I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, I'm pretty confident both of these guys are going to win pretty easily. Did not really see a submission coming though, I will admit. Yeah, and the striking of Yair, absolutely insane. All 3 levels, way ahead, incredible. Landing kicks, body shots, heads, everything, everything. But Emmett actually did land a good one, a couple of times, dropped Yair on his back. And it wasn't really looking good from there for Yair. I mean, lots of ground and pound, kind of rough. Rodriguez in the first round. Um, but that was kind of just because of the one punch. I mean, which is what Emmett does. He lands one and then it's all chaos goes loose. Rodriguez landed so many strikes from the bottom, though, he might have won the round. Because, like I said, it really came down to the knockdown. And that's really how good Yair is. Because even though he was knocked down, I still thought he might have won the round. It was super close. Because if it wasn't for that knockdown, I mean, Rodriguez is winning that round all day. But because of the knockdown, I was kind of like, oh, shit. Okay. Well, this could be. Who knows who won this round on the cards because of the knockdown. I mean, other than that, I still think pretty clearly Rodriguez won the round. Second round, both of them throwing heat. Yair seemed to land more and better, but was then pushed into the fence by Emmett. Obviously, Emmett now realizing, hey, we got to go for some grappling here because this striking thing isn't working out. And Emmett was really starting to slow down, starting to get wobbled quite a bit. And then in classic Yair style, he was throwing out everything: knees, elbows, spinning kicks, and everything else. Sadly, that did end up getting him thrown to the canvas, but that is exactly what put him in the position to then get the submission. Because right from there, it looked like Emmett was in a good spot. Then Yair slipped up the triangle, and then that was it, and gave Yair the win. So I don't even know how I don't even know what I could really say that Emmett could have done better. I mean, I think he was just kind of outclassed everywhere. Really, I mean, destroyed on the feet, except for that one knockdown, and then didn't really do that well on the ground either, obviously, because then he gets submitted the second time it goes down there. Anyway, either way, incredible performance by Yair. And I mean, again, I don't think it's where I really don't. I'm not going to be calling him a champion. No. But what I will say is very clearly the number one contender for Volkanovski. And he kind of already was going into this, if we're being honest. Um, so, and to me, that definitely deserves the title shot against Volk. Very, very impressive win. And I mean, I think that's what we're going to be seeing next anyway. He deserves a shot. After what we are going to be talking about in the main event, I don't think Yair stands any kind of chance, or any featherweight stands any kind of chance against Volkanovski. But he definitely deserves the shot because he is clearly the number one featherweight contender right now that is not named Holloway. Yeah. Anyway. Oh yeah, and now of course we will talk about the biggest fight. I can't. You know what? What's crazy about this is it's probably not even the biggest fight of the year, even though number one pound for pound, number two pound for pound, insane fight, and it lived up to that and then some. I mean, seriously, this was even better than I even expected. It really was. um, but yeah, it might not even be the best matchup of the year. I mean, we've got John Jones and Cyril Gahn. We've got McGregor and Chandler. I mean, holy shit. And we've got Edwards and Usman again. I mean, and we don't even know what other matchup. We don't even have a Chimaev matchup yet. We don't. Chimaev is probably getting a title shot this year, and we're not even talking about the fact that that could be happening. I mean, the matchups this year are going to be absolutely insane. I seriously cannot wait for the rest of the year with all these pay-per-views and matchups, all these crazy matchups. I mean, it's just insane. Anyway, back to this one though. Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski. I did have Makhachev going into this. Not afraid to say that. I mean, I think it was pretty clear. And I said last week, I really didn't think that the size was going to be part of it. A huge factor. I mean, yes, yeah, we're talking about Islam barely making 155 as it is. And then, Volk going up. So there was obviously going to be some element of size, but to me, it wasn't really like, oh, he's just going to throw him around. Like, no, I didn't think that. And I even said that last week, especially since I thought, okay, well, Volkanovski's going to absolutely dismantle him on the feet and then just avoid a lot of these takedowns. But one thing I did think, and I will freely say that because I said this last week, I really did think that once it got to the ground, if Islam was in a great position, that Volk was going to be having some problems. And we did kind of see that in the first round. We kind of did see that in the first round. Um but yeah, so I thought Makhachev was going to get the submission because again, of what we saw with Ortega, Volkanovski basically losing because of the guillotine from Ortega. I thought Makhachev was going to be able to do the same thing, but actually finish it. That's what I thought was going to happen. So again, I'm not hating on Volk at all. I really thought he had a pretty good chance of winning this fight. And again, I said that last week, but because of that submission threat, I thought that is what was going to make the difference. So that's what I said last week. This week, what actually happened? Both of them feeling each other out for the first couple of minutes. And Volk landed first, wobbled Islam back into the fence. And right away, I was like, oh my God, here we go. This is what I was hoping for. A Volk win on the feet. Let's go. After a while, Islam did land a couple of crisp combos, pushed him into the fence. Volk was doing a great job of shutting Islam down. And to me, that was already giving really good hope for the rest of the fight. But he did slowly make his way to the back of Volk. And from there, he started to fight the hands. This slipped the choke in. Close round. But you got to go with Islam because of the combo and the takedown. So first round, I would say locked up for Islam. I don't think you could really see that any other way. So I think that was fair. And that is what all the judges said. First round was pretty clear for Islam. But again, the fact that he got out of that, and again, remember, Islam is going to be the most dangerous in the first round. You know that. Everybody knows that. So the fact that he got out of that so easily, I would say, because he looked, I mean, we know how he looked because we saw the picture. He was calm, confident, and extremely defensive and good at it the entire time. So, and that was the whole first round. So it was kind of like, well, if he survived that easily, I don't think there's really anything that he can't really handle in this matchup. So, obviously did lose the round, but in terms of how that looked, it looked pretty promising, especially with 4 rounds left. Second round. This is where it gets interesting. Volk started the round the same with a beautiful knockdown. sadly did get a little too close and Islam dragged him down. This time, though, Volk got up twice in a row. Amazing. Cruising through the rest of the round. Then Islam started to find his distance, wobbled Volk on his feet there. So dead even to me, dead even. I had it 10-10. I really did. I had it 10-10 because it was dead even, because they both had very good moments there. I had it 10-10. But I even specifically just said the judges probably went with Islam because of what I said earlier in the other fights. It's how you finish the round. It is how you finish the round. And Islam did better in the last half of the round. He wobbled Volk to finish the round. So I thought, okay, well, you're kind of one knockdown each on this one. Excuse me. One knockdown each on this round. You're kind of tied. They're probably going with Islam. That's kind of what I thought. But if you scored that second round for Volk, I have no argument there either. I seriously, it was so close. And I even said it was actually a knockdown for Volk and really just a wobble for Islam. So not even really the same caliber of damage here, because you're talking about a knockdown, which is a stat, a real stat, versus just kind of getting stumbled. Well, stumbled bad, but still. So, I really could see how Volk could have won that second round on people's cards. Definitely. Third round, Volk started to look a little more slick here, not getting as reckless, slipping Islam shots, outlanding him a couple times. Landing a couple of his own. Then Islam started to shoot hard for takedowns. Volk was doing an incredible job of keeping himself on the feet. And lots of flurries to end the round. And Volk, I would say, pretty clearly won that one. The third round, I think that was pretty clear. So at that point, really, on anybody's card, I really could have seen 2-1 either direction. I really could have seen 2-1 in either direction. I think that's kind of where it was headed at this point. And really, if we're being honest, from based on what we saw, what we end up seeing with the judges' results and with what we see on Twitter as well, that actually does seem to be the general story, is that rounds 2 and 3, really kind of decided it, especially round number 2, though. So yeah, fourth round, quick back and forth from both guys. Then Islam made a move, taking him down in the center of the octagon. Sadly, this meant that Volk could not get back up, and Islam took his back. And this was, a pretty clear round for a lot of people. For for Islam, because he was holding that dominant position. But I gotta say, I even wrote it down here. A judge really could have interpreted that as Volk winning the round, because it's just a position for Islam. It's just a position. He is holding him in a position. He's holding his back. Was he doing damage? No. Was he getting closer to a submission? No. That's a position. So meanwhile, Volk is landing dozens of shots like this from his side, from his back, towards his back, doing damage. So what are we talking about here? Like, this is exactly what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. Do you give the round to somebody who controlled his back the whole time, or do you go with the guy who's doing more damage? It's just like I again, and I scored. I can't even really argue that. I can't even really say, oh, Islam clearly won that round. He had his back. You can't say that because we've been saying this whole time damage, 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 damage. Who got the most damage? Volk did. Then why did I score it and everybody else scored that round for Islam? I don't know. I don't know. Because to me at this point, I had Islam 3-1. And that's exactly what the judges had too, for the most part. 2 out of the 3 judges had it 4-1. Yeah, 3-1 at this point. Like, but why? Why is that? It doesn't make any sense. We're contradicting ourselves. Like, all of us are. The judges are. We're not listening anymore. Like, we're not listening to the rules anymore. If it's all about damage, then Volk wins round 4. If it's all about damage, Volk won easily. I would say he could have easily won every single round. Like, it's true. It's just true. He could have actually won all 5 rounds if we're just talking about damage. Like, that's what's so insane to me. And yet I also scored it 3-2. Just like the judges, just like most people that know what they're talking about. I also scored it 3-2 for Islam. But why is that? And we're talking about the scoring criteria again. What it's insane. But anyway, and then of course we all know what happened. Obviously the 5th round, no question about it. That was Volkanovski. And even Islam himself said he lost the last round. Yeah, no shit. Islam got a couple of shots early, but not really a whole much. Volk was dragged down again, but he got back up pretty quick. And the crowd was going absolutely ape shit. They were going crazy, crazy. Some of the loudest cheers I have ever heard in round 5 of this fight, for sure. Unreal. And then the same thing happened again. And then it was Volk winning the grappling. Volk drops him, ground and pound, clearly won the round. So for me, I like I said, I had it 48-47 for Islam. That's what 2 of the judges had. I mean, it makes sense. But when you actually look at the criteria, it's when we're talking about criteria and judging and damage, Volk won 4, possibly even 5 of the rounds. And yet we all seem to agree, a lot of us anyway, especially the ones that are in the field, 48-47 for Islam makes sense. Why? Why is that? Why? I don't know. I truly don't know. And it's one of these this is one of those times where it's like, wow, I really wish that I had a huge audience or somebody I was on somebody's show to talk about this, because it just raises so many good points as to why are things being scored the way they are, because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't actually make any sense at all, really. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, enough about that. The bonuses: KO of the night, Justin Tafa; sub of the night, Yair Rodriguez. I mean, it was for a fake belt, but it was for a belt. Plus, it was also just really impressive because I don't think anybody really saw that one coming. I think we either saw okay, maybe a knockout, but probably more likely a decision. Instead, submission for Yair Rodriguez from his back. Unreal. So that was the sub of the night. Brawl of the night. I mean, it's definitely brawl of the year so far. There is absolutely nothing even close to it. Islam Makhachev, Alex Volkanovski, without a doubt. Most valuable fighter, my pound for pound number 1, and the current UFC pound for pound number 1, Alexander Volkanovski. And it's exactly for the same reason that he is number 1 still in the UFC for pound. It's because he's a 145er and he came up there and made Islam look like, man, he's not really that good, is he? That's That's what a lot of people thought after this. I mean, I think he's still obviously clearly the best lightweight, if not, maybe okay, like, a couple of people are going to give him problems now for sure. Dariush is definitely one of those guys. And I still think Sarukian has a good shot as well, too. I really do. So it's like I don't, I still think he's the number one lightweight, but actually I can't even say that because I think Volkanovski easily could have won that fight. Because and you know what? Actually, a better way of explaining it, and this is how I was going to explain it originally, but I kind of forgot because it's been a few days. What what Volkanovski said at the press conference after, that is to me what I was actually thinking during the fight and after the fight, and it's exactly what Volkanovski said. He said, "I could have done more, but I thought Islam was going to be a lot stronger and a lot better, so I just reeled it in because I didn't want to gas myself out for the rest of the fight. I thought he even said, I thought he was baiting me in. I thought he was joking. Like, I thought he was being like, oh, yeah, this is how strong I am. But I actually secretly have an extra 30 or 40% on top of it that you don't know about that I'm going to break out later in the fight. That's what Volk thought. He specifically said that. And I actually saw that happening in the fight too. I was like, okay, I see why Volkanovski isn't throwing out as much output as he normally does. I don't think it's a good idea, but I see why he's doing it. And then he said after the fight, that's exactly what he was thinking. He said, yeah, I could have done more. I just thought, okay, well, Islam is so, known for being so strong and so tough that I didn't want to burn myself out. Instead, he then realized in the fourth and fifth rounds, oh, this guy he wasn't baiting me at all. He's just not as, not as dominant, not as strong as I thought he was going to be. And I already knew in the fourth or fifth round, I should have started going crazy early. I should have started adding more output earlier. And really, that is the reason he lost this fight. It's not because Islam is better. Volkanovski is, I would say, pretty clearly a better fighter. He is the best fighter. He just made a bad strategic choice. That's it. And that's why he's so mad at himself, because he knows it wasn't because of anything that Islam did. It was because of what Volkanovski himself did not do. He could have had a lot more output and he could have pushed it a little bit, like way more, actually, way more, not even a little bit more. He could have pushed it a lot more and he didn't do that because he thought Islam was going to have more for him, but he didn't. That's it. So for me, because I think Volkanovski pretty clearly should have won that fight. And not even just because of that, but I think that that's my reasoning behind why I gave him the most valuable fighter. But it's also because he won 2 out of the 3 rounds, arguably 3 or 4 out of the 5 rounds, by the way. If we're going by the logic of damage is what matters most, then he won the fight anyway. So there's so many ways to look at it, and it's like in almost all of those ways, Volkanovski is the one that looks a lot better in this matchup. Plus, do I even have to remind you that he's a featherweight and that Islam wants to fight at 170 and that he's barely making 155 and he still barely beat Volkanovski? Like, to me, in the spirit of pound for pound, Volkanovski is clearly the best fighter. Clearly. It's not even close, actually, because like I said, and then if you size parity, which by the way is what pound for pound is. So if Islam was a natural 145, is he winning against Volk? No. He had a huge weight advantage, a size advantage in this, barely making it to 155, possibly illegally rehydrating, by the way. And he still basically loses the fight. So it's like, I don't really see how you could argue, by that definition of pound for pound, Volkanovski is still clearly number one. And I'm so glad. I really am actually really happy that the media decided to give Volkanovski that number one pound for pound spot, because those are the people that are choosing the UFC rankings. It isn't the UFC. A lot of people think that. It's not the UFC that does the pound for pound rankings, or actually the rankings at all. It's the media. The media is who picks the rankings. And I think they actually nailed it. I really do think they nailed it. Volk is still number one. Islam is still number two. Let's not get crazy and demote Islam. I still think 1 and 2, that's how it is. And I really do think that there will be a rematch. I don't think it's going to be right away. I think you got to have, I don't know who Islam is going against. Could be Poirier, because, he's still waiting for Dariush. And I think it's Dariush and Oliveira. And then, of course, Gaethje Fiziev, right? We know that. So it's kind of like, oh, well, actually, yeah, no, that would make more sense. Either Poirier against Islam, or we see, of course, the winner of Fiziev and Gaethje against Islam, or only if it's Fiziev, possibly. That could definitely be a possibility. But either way, I think that makes the most sense. And then, of course, you've got Yair and Volk, which I think you kind of have to do. Interim regular champion, they kind of made it so that it has to happen. So I think that's the way to go with that. Yeah, but after that, though, I mean, after one more fight for both of them, yeah, I could see a rematch. I could easily see a rematch there. Or, maybe not even a rematch. Maybe Islam loses his next one or something against somebody else. I don't know. We don't know. He could lose against Fiziev. Of course he could. Fiziev is incredible. Because I do think Fiziev is going to beat Gaethje. I'm pretty sure about that. So it's like, I think Fiziev could really pose some massive problems for Islam. I really do. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Fiziev against Volkanovski for the belt, for being double champ. Who knows? But I do think we will for sure see Volkanovski getting a second crack at that title, whoever is holding it. I really do. If not, I mean, yeah, we could give him another non-title fight at lightweight and he would win that. But why? Like, why not just give him the chance to be double champ when he really could easily have been the double champ and could easily be one right now? Anyway, that's how I see it. Absolutely insane event. Favorite event of the year. Honestly, top 3, maybe top 2 events that I've ever seen. Incredible. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Crowd was incredible. Fights were incredible. The drama, incredible. Everything. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Fantastic. That's all I got to say about it. Fantastic, fantastic event. That is going to be hard to beat for event of the year, for sure. And that is it. We will take a short break and then we will get into this week's card, UFC Vegas 69. Nice. And then that'll be it. And that honestly won't even really take that long because let's be honest, there are not a lot of good, there aren't really any good fights on there except for maybe like 2. But we're going to talk about the main card and then 1 or 2 prelims that might be sliding into that main card position. And that is the only reason I'm talking about them. Anyway, we will be back right after this.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. but maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a fucking hockey stick. Showcase.
And we're back with UFC Vegas 69. Nice. And funny enough, it's actually headlined by two women, which is that is hilarious how that worked out. But anyway, um the main card. We don't actually have a full main card yet, at least not on Tapology. They didn't really designate which ones are on the main card except for 4 of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go through the main card as it's announced right now, and then I will go to 2 prelims that I know, I mean for a fact, it's going to be one of those 2 that enters the main card, and then of course is the featured prelim. It's got to be those 2 cuz there's nothing else going on that would even make sense to be in those spots. So that starts with William Knight, Marcin Prachnio. What a fucking card! Like, what a bizarre, almost unnecessary card this is. It's just terrible. I mean, you know, we talk. I've said this quite a bit too. I'm not really one to shit on these cards because it's usually these cards that end up being crazy. Like the results and the fights are just end up being amazing. But I gotta say, this is a rough looking card. This is a very rough looking card. I really gotta say. The fact that this is the main card that I'm about to announce is yikes. So yeah, William Knight, Marcin Prachnio. Like a lot of these matchups tonight, not really great records on either side. Prachnio 2-4 in the UFC. Good God. And then Knight doing a little bit better, not necessarily all that great. Came into the UFC 9-1 and is now 11-4. So that's 2-3. Not great either. Really, the main difference is that Knight has fought the tougher opponents and he's lasted longer in those fights. He's also got a ridiculous size advantage because he weighed 250 pounds in his last fight, and this is at light heavyweight. And he is probably the biggest light heavyweight I've ever seen. Except for maybe like Jailton Almeida, he was like ripped. Knight is more the size where it's like, oh shit, like he's just big. Like he's like the beefy kind of big. Whereas Jailton's like, you know, skin and muscle. No fat. Just skin, muscle right there. That's Jailton Almeida for you. Knight is more like beef, like muscle and fat, not skin and muscle. You know, it's not toned, just big. That's what William Knight is. And my God, is he big. So for me, the size advantage, the slight experience, at Prachnio really isn't, you know, he's not really all that big at light heavyweight as it is. So, I mean, huge size mismatch, I would say. You know, skill, basically the same. But yeah, because of that size difference, I've got to go with Knight and I've got to go with finish. Knight, you know? Knight for Prachnio. Yeah, because like it really just takes one punch from Knight. He's done it before. He's done it to other people. Prachnio has been finished in the first round. 3 first round losses in a row to open his UFC career. So clearly he's been finished in the first round before. I'm just going to say that that's probably going to be happening again. Again, I don't really think either one of them is that insanely good. So I'm not saying like, oh, put all your money on Knight. He's clearly going to get a knockout. No, I'm just saying with the size advantage and the slight skill advantage, possibly, he's probably going to either manhandle him or get a finish. He should get a finish, though, because even if he does manhandle him, he'll be close enough where literally one punch, bam, he's gone. So that's where I'm going with Knight on this one. And if you go towards the odds, oh, actually, yeah, I keep forgetting to put my banner up. We'll put the banner up. Why not? I just realized it's not even the right link. It just says it's not even sportsnet.com. It's sportsnet.com/betting. I just noticed that. Wow. Yeah, I'm not putting this banner up anymore. Take the banner down. I will just say, though, we are, it's on Bet99. We say that in the I should really mention that more often too. My God, I'm horrible. Anyway, on Bet99 here, -115 for Knight, -108 for Praknio. So they're not really sure which way to go with this either. But, I got to say, again, considering the size advantage, even if he doesn't get the finish, the size advantage alone, it really should be a good night for him. -115 for Knight. Over under is at 2.5. They're favoring the under. I would be too. So yeah, I mean, -155 for under 2.5. I would say that is definitely the way to go because there's a lot of finishes on both sides for these guys. So I'm going with the under on this one. -115 for Knight is a pretty good bargain when you consider the size advantage. But I will say, on paper and skill wise, it is pretty dead even. So I see why they slightly are favoring the Knight one. But yeah, Knight and then under 2.5. I think pretty clear choices to make right now. Then we got Josh Parisian and Jamal Pogues. Another, I would say, completely dead even one. And I'm a little surprised. Actually, I'm very surprised that the odds are, I would say, heavily favoring one direction because, neither one of these guys really belongs here at all. Parisian, not good. Not good. But he did get a finish in his last one against Alain Boudreaux, which is why this is so close to me. And I don't know why people aren't thinking this is going to be close. Parisian's a tough guy. Pogues is not going to get a finish. I would be pretty surprised if Pogues got a finish here. And it's because Pogues also doesn't belong here. I'm not saying he doesn't belong necessarily in the UFC, but he definitely does not belong at heavyweight. He is not a heavyweight at all. If you watch the Contender Series fight that he was a part of, they even specifically said multiple times, this is not a heavyweight fight. It took place at heavyweight, but his opponent was smaller than he was. And Pogues normally is at light heavyweight. Pogues has fought at light heavyweight. That's where he belongs. He doesn't have the power for heavyweight. He does not have the size for heavyweight. He does not have anything that a heavyweight possesses. So he should not be at heavyweight. So that is already why this is way closer than the odds are suggesting, because he is in a division that he does not belong in. On the other side, like I said, Parisian, much bigger, but he's also not good. So especially at striking, which is a problem because Pogues is actually a fairly quick, precise striker, which is why I said he belongs in light heavyweight. Don't get me wrong, he belongs in the UFC. I'm not opposed to having him here, but should not under any circumstances be fighting at heavyweight, which is why I did actually go back and forth on this one. I had Parisian at first, then I switched it to Pogues, then Parisian because of size, but I ultimately went with Pogues on this one because he is just a much better striker than Parisian is. That being said, do I think there's going to be a finish? Probably not. I don't really think there's going to be a finish. But it's really just because Pogues is a lot faster and more precise. He does not have the power to finish him, I don't think. That's why I'm saying it's going to be a decision. I'm going with Pogues. I'm giving Pogues the edge, the slightest edge, because he's a better striker. But trust me, if Parisian comes out as a grappler and doesn't really get hit a whole lot, Parisian could easily win this fight. And that's why I'm definitely not putting this in a parlay. And I'm a little hesitant to even put money on a minus 250 Pogues on this one. Minus 250. That's honestly insane to me. You know, he doesn't belong at heavyweight. He hasn't fought in the UFC. Parisian just knocked a real heavyweight out. Like, oh, actually, I'm not even sure if Bordeaux is a real heavyweight either, to be honest. So it's kind of like, well, where are we seeing these odds here? Why is it minus 250? I have no idea. So I definitely do not agree with the odds on this, and I won't be putting this in a parlay. I won't be putting much money on this one because I don't trust this matchup at all. In fact, like I said, I've said this before. If you don't trust a matchup like this, which I don't, you might even want to just put it on the underdog just because it's that close. And there's a good chance that you really could cash in on this. So if you really, if you're like me and you're not really sure about how good Pogues is going to be, how this matchup is going to go, you might just want to put it on Parisian. I do think Pogues has a slightly better chance of winning, but not worth minus 250, that's for sure. So yeah, it's really bettor's discretion on that one. Do you want to go with who is probably the safest bet to win? Or do you want to go with the far better return for the guy that's probably going to win like 40% of the time? It's tough. It's a tough one. It's not easy being a better. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, my pick is Pogues. Over under is set at 2.5. I even said it. Neither one of these guys gets finishes. They're both except for that last one, which I think that was, that was a little unexpected. Neither one of them really gets finishes. So, I mean, I think a decision is a pretty clear way to go. And again, this is a weird one because they're heavyweights, Well, kind of. One of them is a heavyweight. And yeah, you're at over under 2.5, and they are favoring the over. And I say that's unusual because that's not normal for a heavyweight fight. Normally, we're spamming the under for heavyweight fights. It's the exact opposite of flyweight. Flyweight, you go the over. Heavyweight, under. It's just what happens. Women's fights, over. It's just what happens. So for this to be the opposite, you might even actually want to go with the under just in case somebody does get the finish because this is heavyweight. So going for minus 145 for over 2.5, there's definitely more value with the under. And it's heavyweight. The trend, as Yanni the Greek says, the trend is your friend until the end. So this could be your opportunity to put that saying to the test. Plus 114 for under 2.5. Not a bad way to go. Like I said, and you know what? This does happen sometimes with matchups where it's like you're not really sure who's going to win or even actually how it's going to be done. So if you don't know anything about it, if you're not sure, but you don't know anything about it, I'm not saying that. I know a lot about it, but if you're not really sure how it's going to end, you might just want to take both of the underdogs. So you might just go Parisian plus 200 and under 2.5 plus 114. You could cash in on both. You might cash in on one of them, but because they're both underdogs, you actually make your money back just by winning one of them. Math. Huh? Math. It works. How about that? So, I mean, 2 bets. If you win one of those bets, if either Parisian wins or it's a finish, you get your money back. Smart math. Do that. Be smart about your money. That's how you do it. Next up, how this is a co-main. unfucking believable. I mean, and there's a pretty clear co-main that actually should have been made, and that's actually Jim Miller and Hernandez. I think that's the pretty clear way to go with a co-main, but whatever. We're here. Jordan Wright, Zach Pauga, bizarre. what what a fucking co-main. A guy who's lost most of his fights, 2-4 in the UFC, Jordan Wright, and somebody who has never won a fight and lost the Ultimate Fighter finale, Zach Pauga. Why this is a co-main, I have no fucking idea. But that being said, I would actually say that there is a fairly clear choice in this one. I mean, I say yes, neither one of them have had success in the UFC, but I think there's a pretty clear way to go with this. I mean, Zach Pauga was on the heavyweight Ultimate Fighter. This is a light heavyweight fight, which is where he should have been in the first place. The only reason he was fighting at heavyweight is to be on the show. And he should have won the show because he was beating Usman. How he lost that and got clipped like that out of absolutely fucking nowhere, I have no idea. I mean, he really should have been winning that fight. Anyway, still a little salty about that. But anyway, yeah, and that was at heavyweight. Now he's down at light heavyweight and he's going against a guy who, by the way, Jordan Wright is also not a light heavyweight. Not only is he not a light heavyweight, he's a middleweight. He was fighting at 185, and Pauga was fighting at 230. That is a 50-pound difference. 50 pounds. 50-pound difference. This is not like whatever you think about how this matchup is on paper. 50 pounds is colossal. That is a massive, massive size difference. Not only that, to me, that loss from Pauga was a complete fluke. Like 9 times out of 10, Pauga's winning that fight. So it's like I cannot imagine Pauga losing this fight. I would say it is going to be a very easy finish. First round, second round, definite win for Pauga. And by the way, every single fight that Jordan Wright has been in, win or loss, every single one of them has been a finish. So we're seeing a finish here, and Pauga is the pretty clear choice. The odds support exactly what I just said. I mean, Pauga minus 286, rightfully so. I think he's, well, we're still talking about somebody who's making their UFC debut technically, and their light heavyweight UFC debut versus somebody who is, 2-4 at middleweight. I don't know. It's still like, I don't know if minus 286 is really warranted, considering what they've both done. But yeah, I would say Pauga is the very clear choice on paper. Yeah, minus 286. I will be putting that in the parlay, and I will be betting on a Zach Pauga finish. That's how I would spin this one. The over-under is at 1.5. And it is exactly because of what I just said, where Wright has only ever been in finishes. He has either grabbed a finish or has been finished. So safe to say there's probably going to be another one, especially considering this ridiculous size difference. Yeah. So which way would I be going? I forgot to say what I was going to. I'm getting tired now. I want dinner. The under 1.5 is minus 184. To be honest, I don't really like that, because that's like, okay, you're banking on Pauga getting a knockout in the first round or the first half of the second round. I think that's fair to assume, but when you're talking about odds being at minus 184, for that happening, you might want to bet on the plus money instead. Because who's to say that Pauga doesn't let this go a little bit longer, get into the end of the second round, possibly the third round? You know, who's to say that that's not going to happen? So, betting wise, odds wise, you might want to go with the over plus 142. I mean, those are pretty solid, pretty good odds to take advantage of for that kind of situation. So I'd kind of be going more towards the over only because of the odds. Which one do I think is more likely? Probably the under. Again, it's better's choice in this one. That being said, Pauga is the clear choice, putting him in a parlay for sure. Then we've got, and I'm looking at the odds now, and I just can't believe, I am baffled by these odds that I keep seeing with Andrade and Blanchfield. Did you not just see what happened? Like, we just saw Andrade absolutely nuke somebody, like dominate somebody, like absolutely make them look like a fucking amateur. That's what Andrade just did to somebody who fought for the title in her last fight. Yeah, sure, Shevchenko just destroyed Murphy as well, but she was fighting for a title. And Andrade made her look like a fucking amateur. And now Andrade is going against somebody who, the best fight Blanchfield has ever had, the highest ranked person she's ever had, is Molly McCann, who arguably, I'm not even sure. I mean, I guess she should be ranked, but she's like questionable, to be honest. And and she struggled on the feet in all of her fights. She's just a really good grappler. And I mean, who else is a really good grappler in the division? We just saw her, Lauren Murphy. It's the same fucking matchup. It's the same matchup, people. Nothing changed. The only difference is that Blanchfield is a better version of Murphy. That's it. That is it. Blanchfield is a better version of Lauren Murphy. She's a slightly better striker. Slightly, folks. And probably a much better grappler, I will say. Much better grappler than Lauren Murphy. But other than that, I mean, and the age, of course. But stylistically, this is basically the same matchup. So it's like, what? Did you not just see what Andrade did? She pitched a shutout. Like, she didn't even really get hit. And she hit Murphy how many times? Like 300? Like, I mean, it was a record too. She hit a record amount of times. It was like 250 or something like that. I mean, holy shit! Like, this could not be more one-sided. I just don't agree with the narrative at all that Blanchfield is some kind of grappling menace that's gonna, manhandle Andrade and get a win. This is 5 rounds. It's Jessica Andrade, possibly the best striker in. Oh, I don't know, actually, because Shevchenko and Zhang Weili could be the best strikers, but outside of Zhang Weili and I just said her name, Shevchenko, outside of the obvious being Shevchenko and Zhang Weili, Andrade is a very close third, and they're all 3 of those in that conversation in striking. And you think Andrade can't grapple? Like, what? She shut down every single one of Murphy's takedowns easily, and has just thrown at everybody else around. I mean, she slammed Rose's head into the canvas. Like, did you forget about that? Like, she submitted Amanda fucking Lemos at flyweight. She submitted her on the feet in the first round. And you're telling me that you can't think she can hang with some up and comer? Like, that is mind blowing to me, the odds on this one. So, yeah, I have Jessica Andrade as a very clear favorite who I would actually confidently put in a parlay for the win. I mean, like, seriously. Seriously. Like, again, she just fought. She just fought and destroyed a title contender. Absolutely destroyed her. Like, it's absolutely insane to me that this is even close in the odds. And it's 5 rounds. We don't even know how Blanchfield is going to be. 5 rounds? We know Andrade is going to be sensational for all 5 rounds. What's Blanchfield going to do when she can't get the takedowns anymore? If she can even get them in the first place, you're just going to get her like ripped apart on the feet for 5 rounds straight? Like, what? It's just mind blowing to me, the odds on this one. So I've got, I mean, it's, yeah. But I will say though, I have a decision only because Blanchfield is tough, young, and, she's a grappler. She's going to make it interesting with the grappling. She's going to shut down the striking a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to stop herself from being finished. That's all I think is going to happen. Blanchfield is going to basically struggle through the 5 rounds, possibly win one round in there, maybe 2. But other than that, Andrade should be able to run away with this, easily win the decision, possibly even get a finish because she is so much better on the feet. So much better. So much better. And I mean, I think people kind of forget it because she just walked right through Molly, but that's the takedown defense of Molly. That has nothing to do with Aaron's. Like, we can't say, "Oh, Aaron's an amazing striker. She destroyed Molly McCann." Like, what are you talking about? Molly didn't even, I don't think she even landed a single strike. Like, what are you talking about? We didn't even see any striking. What we did see striking was JJ Aldrich, who was actually beating her on the feet handily. And then Blanchfield just dominated her with the grappling and ended up winning pretty easily like that. But she was losing on the feet easily. And you're saying that she somehow made up enough ground in the last year and a half to compete with the third best striker, female striker, maybe fourth if you include Nunes, of course, as well. Like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think that's going to happen. Like, I just don't see where this is happening. So yeah, I'm putting a lot of money on Andrade, definitely putting her in the parlay. And if I could afford it, I'd be putting $1,000, $10,000 on Andrade here, just because the odds are so insanely good, and we're not losing this. Like, Andrade is not losing this. So yeah, minus 138 for Andrade, slamming that button all day. Plus 112 for Blanchfield. Ridiculous considering the circumstances. Over under 2.5, which I think is actually also kind of insane. So they're favoring a finish before, actually, it actually is dead even at over under 2.5. So they're expecting a finish in the 3rd round. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Andrade has the potential to get a finish. I don't know if it would be that soon, to be honest. I mean, maybe because the striking is that one-sided, she could. But like I said, I do think Blanchfield is tough enough and skilled enough. My eye is awful. It's getting really itchy now. What was I saying? Yeah, I do think Blanchfield is skilled enough, young enough, strong enough that she can hang on longer than definitely the 2.5, I think. So I'm going with the over minus 110. By the way, these are still flyweight women. Let's not forget that. Statistically speaking, they do have longer fights. So I think already, why would you not be going towards the over? And yeah, I think there's a lot of money to be made on this matchup. I mean, Andrade minus 138, over 2.5 minus 110. I mean, even if by some miracle Blanchfield wins this, if you're putting money on the over 2.5, I still think you're cashing in because I think Blanchfield's only way to win this is by decision. I don't think she's submitting Jessica Andrade. I can't see that in any conceivable outcome. There's no way Andrade is getting submitted here. And I don't really see how she could get, I mean, maybe a ground and pound. You know, if she's stuck down there long enough, maybe some idiot ref stops it too early. I don't know. I'm just trying to give her the benefit of the doubt here. But seriously, like over 2.5 minus 110, slamming those odds all day. Minus 138 on Drudge. What a steal. What a fucking steal. And that is it for the main card. But well, as it stands, I do think that one of these next matchups, well, probably the first one I'm about to say, is going to be that addition to the main card. And then the other one should be the featured prelim. I don't know how it's going to work out, but these are really the only 4 hugely recognizable names are these 2 next matchups. And that is Jim Miller, Alexander Hernandez. Yeah, I mean, come on. We know who. If you don't know who Jim Miller is, you have not been watching the UFC because he's the only fighter who is still around who has fought at 100, UFC 100, UFC 200, and he is planning on going UFC 300. So if you don't know who he is, you probably have not been watching the UFC or you just don't watch anybody that's not like a huge social media sensation. Other than that, you should know who Jim Miller is. And other than that, we did just see Alexander Hernandez. For me, I actually think it's fairly clear cut, but I gotta say the odds, well, the odds are actually really swinging into the favor of who I picked, but the Tapology picks going in the exact opposite direction. I gotta say, this is an unusual pick for them. Jim Miller, Alexander Hernandez. Hernandez did fight at 145, but my God, is that definitely not the right spot for him. He is so much stronger and just more healthy at 155. He even said that himself. He talked about another thing that wasn't necessarily working for him at 145. So I'm glad that he's at 155 now and a lot healthier. But yeah, to me, it's the skill, it's the size, it's the speed. Well, actually, not even really the size, because Jim Miller is probably actually the same size, if not possibly bigger. I wouldn't even say that. But oh, I can tell my dinner's here now. I can smell the food coming up through the vent. But yeah, and really, Hernandez has just been on kind of the wrong side of history. You know, he lost to Drew Dober, tough matchup. Thiago Moises, tough matchup. Renato Moicano, tough matchup. The 145 one, tough matchup. Also got caught. I think it was he was winning that fight before that too, which even pissed me off even more. He's one of those guys that you really like and you know he's really good, but he can't win. That's what keeps happening to him. And I hope it doesn't happen this time. I'm going to be so mad if it happens this time. But he is more than capable of winning this fight. Miller is over 10 years older, not super exciting, not super, going for finishes. Like he's just kind of good at what he does and he ends up getting wins. But this is one of those fights. Hernandez really, really, really should win this one. And he's at minus 240 on the odds, which I got to say, like I said, I'm a little surprised based on what I've seen on Tapology. I'm shocked actually that this is so one-sided in the Hernandez way. That being said, I kind of agree. He should win. He should very clearly be winning this fight. Plus 190 for Miller. So if you are one of those people on Tapology, I think even on Verdict, I saw that is favoring Miller, plus 190 is an incredible price. But that being said, He's so much younger. He's so much faster. He's so much more skilled. Hernandez should win this. He really, really should. I'm not sure if I'm putting that in a parlay though. I might be a little scared to do that only because things don't tend to work out for Hernandez, and I'm scared that that's going to happen again. But he should win. And the over under is bizarre enough. It's over under 1.5. I would be jumping on the over 1.5 on this one. Minus 137. They're both in a lot of decisions. Jim Miller is already well known as one of the toughest people. Hernandez also pretty tough guy. So I don't really see either one of these guys getting finished. So I'm definitely going with the over minus 137. I think that's a fantastic betting line to take advantage of. I really do. So that's that one. And I do think that will probably end up on the main card. I was going to talk about it anyway, but that's probably the other main card one. And the final one of the night for me, OSP, Ovince St. Preux, Felipe Lins. One of them is really a UFC veteran. He's been in like over 20 UFC fights, I think. And then Felipe Lins is older as well, so he's technically a veteran, but he's only been around the UFC for a few fights. And this one was also so hard to pick a winner. It really was. I was all over the place on this one too. But ultimately, I actually did end up going with the underdog on this one. I went with OSP only because I don't think either one of them is really good anymore. But why did I end up going? Oh yeah. Okay, hold on here. I need to read what I actually, because usually I remember what I'm talking about, so I don't even have to really look at my notes as much. This one I kind of don't really remember. Neither guy finding much success recently. Theme of the whole card. Let's be honest. Lins did win his fight against Prachniow in his last one, who we just talked about, and he's not very good. Let's be honest. But had never won in the UFC before that, and had not won anywhere since 2018 before that. That's Felipe Lins. So one win since 2018, and it was against Marcin Prachniow. Not great. On the other side, OSP has been a lot more active and has also been fighting at heavyweight in that time as well. With both of them approaching 40, because they're both basically the same age, there's no real way to know who's going to come out the much better fighter in this one, because that's kind of the stage that they're both at, where it's like, I don't really know what we're going to get here. I will have to go with the guy who's been in the UFC for so much longer, OSP. He's been more active as well. He's way more experienced. He's done better against tougher people and heavier people. Like I said, he was at heavyweight as well, not just light heavyweight. So with that, to me, I think he's going to clearly grab the decision. I think he's going to be using his extra weight, his extra experience, his mind for that to win the decision. To me, it's actually kind of like what Andrei Arlovsky is doing. He wins decisions now because he's so much smarter than people. He uses his style to his advantage because he's so experienced. And that is what I think OSP can do in this fight. So that's where I'm going with this one. But I mean, they're so evenly matched, it really could go either way. But he is also the underdog, like I said. So once again, if it's that dead even, bet on the underdog. The trend is your friend to the end. If it's dead even, go for the underdog. And in this case, like I said, this should be a lot closer in the odds. Plus 175. Like, remember I just said too, Lins, one win since 2018. One, and it was Marcin Prachniow. One win. So, plus 175. Yeah, I'm throwing money on OSP. Minus 220 for Felipe Lins. Holy shit, what a bizarre betting line. I honestly don't understand why it's this one-sided. And by the way, I did watch the tape again just to see, and I will admit Lins does seem maybe a little bit faster, but like I said, the size. because Linz was still getting controlled by Prakniau a little bit. He was getting reversed, he was getting controlled, and OSP is fighting heavyweights. So he should be able to control Linz. So I'm struggling to see why Linz is such a huge favorite. I don't really get it. So yeah, I'm putting the money on OSP for sure. The over under is at 2.5, and they're actually both minus money. They're both fairly even money. I'm going with the over on this one. I would heavily, heavily, heavily favor the decision. So minus 125. I actually think that's a great, great betting line that I will be taking advantage of. Yeah, another good this is another fight that has a lot of potential, a lot of potential. So that's it for all of those. Now we will go on to the actual parlays. We've got, let's see here, Clayton Carpenter. Fucking throw him in every single parlay you've got. Seriously, one of the better prospects we've seen from the Contender Series. He is an absolute maniac. Not only is he dangerous, like super, super dangerous in the first round at flyweight, no less, where he's gotten, I don't know how many first round finishes, but he can carry that through all 3 rounds, which is what he did on the Contender Series. Insanely good. He will win. Minus 313. Throwing that in the parlay. AJ Fletcher. Who the fuck is Garimbo? Who the fuck is Garimbo? I genuinely had no idea. Never heard the name before. Even he was in Fury FC. So I watched his Fury FC fight, and my God, does he get hit a lot. He is not good. He is not good. He has a ridiculous reach advantage, but he is not good on the feet at all. Fletcher should win this with ease. Fletcher, that is my second leg of the parlay. And honestly, the next one, Sadikov, Evan Elder. Whoops, ow. I don't even think this one's close. I think Sadikov is also very clearly a lot better than Evan Elder. I won't put him in a lot of the parlays because, oh, my ear's ringing now. That's fun. I'm not even joking. My ear's just like me. It's disappearing now. Evan Elder, he can kind of hang on, make some waves. So I wouldn't be putting Sadikov in all of the parlays because we haven't seen him yet. But on paper and from what I saw, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. So maybe in a couple of the parlays, maybe. But yeah, Ashkabov, though, I'm actually blown away. I am blown away by the fact that this is not more one-sided. Ashkabov is insanely good. He will win because Jamal Emmers is also just not very good. So I think this is actually a very clear pick. Minus 138 Ashkabov. I would actually include him in a lot of the parlays. Bueno Silva minus 450. That's another clear one. So clearly we've got a clear 3 and then, a fourth one here and there that you can swap in and out. Hernandez minus 240. We talked about it. Maybe. He's really unlucky though, so I might not do that. Andrade, fucking throw her in there. Pauga minus 286. Definitely throwing that in there. Pogues minus 250. Not trustworthy at all, so I'm not doing that. So that leaves us with Andrade, Pauga, Bueno Silva for sure. Ashkabov 3.5. Fletcher for sure is a 4th. Carpenter for sure is a 5th. So I mean, we've got a solid, rock solid 5-leg parlay in that, with a couple here and there that you might want to swap in and out for the occasional person, make it to a 6-leg parlay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, looking good. We're looking good this week. A lot of great bets this week. And that is it for me. I'm starving. I'm sure my mom is already eating. Already like, why is he not down yet? What are we doing here? Why am I waiting for him to eat? I don't know. I mean, I'm hungry too. I want to go eat. So we're going to call it here. I mean, we were going to call it here anyway. But yeah, lots of great looking bets. That is it for me. If you want to go check out the other sports, if you're into all the other sports, I should say, Area 51 has got you covered. I'm the MMA guy. All my socials are below: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all down below. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say I'm excited about watching the card this weekend. I'm really not. You know, I'm excited. I'm always excited to watch a card. Let's be real. But in terms of the content, you know, it's a little bit lackluster in this one. That being said, I love me a good Jessica Andrade fight, and I really do like Erin Blanchfield as well. So I'm excited to watch that one. But other than that, could not care less about the way any of these other ones work out. That is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week.